Hey everybody, welcome back to the Flannel Phillip channel. Today is the episode that a lot of you have been asking about. It's the deep dive on my sleeper. It's the build from start to finish. And now, I gotta tell you, when we did this build, I didn't have the YouTube channel and I didn't have this camera, so I didn't take a whole lot of video about it. But I have a bunch of the photos and I'll do a voiceover step by step and I'll show you what we did, what makes this thing unique, where it came from, a little bit of the backstory of it, and what we've done. So hope you enjoy it. Stick with me.
All right, so a little bit about the sleeper itself. It is a 32-inch Bentz, B-E-N-T-Z, originally made by Brighton Metal Products in Hamburg, Michigan. This is kind of the backstory of where the sleeper came from. We found it in the scrapyard and we're able to resurrect it. We reskinned it in stainless steel and mounted it on the truck. I did some customization on the interior of this thing, a lot of painting, pinstriping, things like that to kind of make it my own. And so this is the backstory of where it all comes from. It all began when I started driving for Brian Bulow Trucking in 2016. This truck was a day cab. It had already been shortened up to 220-inch wheelbase. And so we pull end dump in our company, and I drove it this way for about 4 years as a day cab. And I just absolutely love this truck. It's an awesome machine. It's a 1997 Kenworth W900L. And because it had been day cabbed previously, it had the back window in it was that particular size, and my boss is super cool about me doing custom touches to it and making it my own. We call it the Rat Rod Kenworth. And back in July 2018, had a hydraulic hose incident on this truck and ended up making a huge mess in the interior of this thing. So we've definitely been through some ups and downs together, me and this truck, but we got it all fixed up. My boss is super cool about me doing the hand-painted lettering on it. Of course, you could see the interior of the dash, just making it my own, put a lot of my own personality into this thing. And yeah, that's just kind of where the truck and I together have come, you know, through this journey already before I even found this sleeper. And, you know, I'm able to do that kind of stuff with a couple of the trucks in our fleet. So anyway, November 2018 comes along, and I was going through this scrapyard, and I saw this old bunk, this old sleeper, laying on its side in the scrap pile, actually in the aluminum pile out back. And immediately I had to just jump out and stop and take a look at it, because I thought, oh man alive, it's just super square and old school and awesome, and I just absolutely love it. So I thought, well, you know what? The worst I can do is just at least tell Brian about it, and you know, just I was ecstatic to see this thing. Well, it turns out he surprised me with it. He went back to that scrapyard and he bought it, unbeknownst to me, and he gave it to me as a Christmas gift that Christmas. So that was super cool of him. The thing was just all beat up. I mean, it had rabbits and squirrels living inside of it, and it was just gnarly. So anyway, we started doing a little bit of research on this thing because we didn't know anything about it, honestly. We found out that it had originally come off of an international truck, and so I was doing all kinds of research on Google images and things like that of what some of these international Eagles, the 4300s, looked like, and discovered they actually also came equipped on some GMC 5-star Generals, I believe. So yeah, found out that Brighton Metal Products, along with a couple other smaller sleeper manufacturers back then, were bought up by the Bentz company. They came in multiple sizes. Mine in particular is a 32-inch, but they had some that were a little bit deeper or longer in different lengths. And the more I dug into the Bentz company and some of the history of some of these old Internationals and GMC Generals, I just thought they're the coolest. I fell in love with this sleeper, honestly, by just doing the research. Some of them are 3-door, and some are full walk-through. Mine happened to be a crawl-through, and as we did some measurements on it, we discovered that, oh wow, the back window of my day cab actually lines up perfectly with the crawl-through boot that was on this sleeper. And so anyway, I have friends with some really cool sleepers already on their old trucks, and I really love that ribbed look on the back of these sleepers. I've always loved Mercury sleepers. I think they're just awesome. And so when we were trying to decide what to do with our sleeper, I thought, we have to replace a lot of this aluminum sheet metal anyway. I would really like to do a ribbed back to this sleeper if we can. We got to talking even more because I love double eagle sleepers. And boy, the Velasquez brothers down in California, they have an incredible machine that was hugely influential on the way that I wanted my truck to look. So we started tearing into the thing, and really taking the old frame apart, doing some sanding and some grinding. We knew that this thing had a little bit of structural damage to begin with, but we were just going to try and straighten it out as best we can, and we're certainly not body men, but let's just take it apart. Let's try and get the old nasty smell out of it. Let's cut the rivets off. And we knew we had to replace the sheet metal on the back wall and also the doors. We were just going to disassemble it and see if we can make something out of it, because I just thought it was the coolest looking thing on the planet. I really did. I thought, I haven't seen another Kenworth up until that point that had a square sleeper on it like this, and I thought it would be just ideal to put something like that on my truck. So you can see with International, they actually had the heater blow through a duct from under the passenger seat and blow warm air into the sleeper. So I ended up just closing up that hole with a little bit of sheet metal and some rivets, and I knew, because my truck is a rat rod already, I wasn't really going to be all that concerned about it being perfect or straight or anything like that. I was just going to kind of learn as I go and use some body filler, and we did a little bit of spraying with an actual automotive gun, but a lot of what I did was just learning as I go, using etching primer and rattle cans. Honestly, we're just a low buck operation, and I was just sanding with what I had. I was priming with what I had. I knew I wanted flat black, and of course this sleeper wasn't square. It had been banged up so many times that nothing about it was going to be true or square, but that's okay. I started insulating it. On that back wall, you can see that I started using plywood for reinforcement, and I started drawing up some ideas and some measurements of what I imagined and what I wanted, and I really liked that pleated look on the back wall, and I really liked that sunburst look on the doors, just like Mercury's and Double Eagles. I was going to try and kind of combine the two looks together. The lower doors for the storage compartment, I found some stainless steel from an old reefer trailer. So those are the rear doors of a reefer trailer from the same scrapyard, actually. And I just repurposed them. I cut it to the size I wanted. I polished it up, riveted it on, and then I started doing some of my artwork on there, on the interior panels. I'm learning how to pinstripe. I really dig old school painting and lettering, and I kind of wanted the look of like an old World War II bomber on my bigger doors. Again, my boss is super cool about me just personalizing this truck all I wanted. So I was learning how to pinstripe along the way. And then when it came time to get the stainless done for the outside door panels and the back wall, we went through Sanson Enterprises in Dodge Center, Minnesota. He sourced the stainless for us. He did the laser cutting, and then I learned how to sand and polish as I went. I'd never done anything like that before, but I thought, you know what perfect way to just learn as I go. So I had some good teachers like Evan Steger. He had an amazing YouTube channel that was teaching me how to do this stuff and just kind of figure it out. So little by little, it just seemed to turn out better and better the longer I did it, and learning what to use and how to do it. The doors themselves were pretty easy to work on. Through that summer, I was working on a lot of this stuff in my backyard, and I was using paper patterns along the way to help me line up where the door handles used to be on the old aluminum panels and transfer that kind of stuff over to the stainless. Same with my holes for drilling for the rivets and things like that. I wanted to try and keep everything looking like it belongs. And I knew I wasn't going to put vents in the doors anymore. I was going to eliminate that because I'm going to put a back window in this thing. The back window is important not only for ventilation, but also because we run end dumps. I want to be able to watch the trailer go up in the air and keep an eye on things back there. So yeah, that's kind of how we went about it, is just reinforcing and gusseting things if we could, and starting to just lay on the stainless. We began with the very center and just tried to square everything up, and to start in the middle section and work our way out to the sides, and with an old sleeper that isn't square and a brand new piece of stainless that is square, you kind of just have to do the best you can and go with it. We had some really nice sharp drill bits, which was very, very helpful. So we ended up drilling every single hole by hand to get everything to line up. And again, it's certainly not perfect, but it was good enough for what I was doing. And we bought the rear window as just kind of an eBay kind of thing we got from, I think it was Amazon, if I remember right. We bought 2 windows because we were actually doing 2 sleepers at the time. One for our old 84 Kenworth. You can see that sleeper once in a while in the background. Brian was kind of restoring that one along the way at the same time I was doing this sleeper. So 2 trucks got sleepers at the same time. They went from day cabs to sleepers. So yeah, we just spent, I think it was a couple of weeks here and there, just using aluminum pop rivets and good sharp drill bits. And as I'm starting to fit the back window and things like that, I had to use whatever tools I could to get the opening to correctly fit that window. So belt sander and things like that was necessary. And then I'm also starting to work on the frame that's going to attach this sleeper to the frame of the truck. And so originally these would have had probably a steel frame. Mine had a steel frame, and I was going to try and lighten things up as much as I could. So I was using 3x3 aluminum L, extruded aluminum, and stainless hardware for everything. And, patching up whatever I needed to try and square it up and seal it up. And, polished that stuff up and started insulating my doors, putting the inside door panels on. If you notice where the vents used to be on the inside door panels, the swirls and things like that swirly area where the vents used to be, that was the old sign that was attached to the side of the sleeper doors down below. I just flipped them over. So yeah, started doing a lot of the wiring for the lights. Those door stoppers, those are stainless steel cable. And I could reuse the original ductwork for the heater, because we're gonna put a like kind of a hot rod style heater in this thing. And so I was trying to keep the original look to this thing as much as I possibly could. Of course, all the interior wood paneling was shot, so this is just beadboard that I bought from Menards, and painted it up with gloss enamel, like Rust-Oleum enamel, and that way I could match if it was spray paint or if it was brush on paint. But I brushed and rolled everything on the interior of this thing. Spray foam in any gaps to try and seal it up and quiet it down. And I knew that the more I could seal it up and put brand new weather stripping around the doors, that's just stuff that I bought from a local RV supply place. They hooked me up with that stuff, and new hardware wherever I'm able to, and just updating things. There we're starting to get the back window in place. I knew I wanted one that had some tint to it. And then as far as the wiring, I'm trying to keep all the wiring from getting chafed or rubbing through any spots. So I'm routing it through like rubber hose and stuff like that, just to give it a kind of a little conduit for my wiring. I knew also that I wanted this sleeper to have its own standalone wiring and switches and all that stuff, so that way if we ever take the sleeper off the truck, everything is self-contained on the sleeper and I can use it on a different truck someday. So I'm using an old license plate and just putting the jeweling on there just so it matches the dash of the truck. And yeah, again, we were so blessed to have the pieces that came with this sleeper, like the boot. That's amazing. A lot of the trim, the ductwork, that was all still there. And so that was super helpful to be able to still use all those pieces. Like that interior trim panel, that was originally brown. I just spray painted that black, and it's cracked. You know, it's certainly not perfect, but it was good enough for me. I knew I was going to want some interior lighting up on the roof, so watermelon lights seemed pretty cool to me, and so I got some that can change colors, red or white, and put it on like a three-way switch. And you know, I'm kind of painting as I go. You'll notice too that I mounted that switch panel right underneath the crawl-through window, and I did that intentionally so that from the driver's seat I can reach back and I can turn on the lights just by reaching through the crawl space. So there we're getting the doors put on. You can see kind of what it's starting to look like all together, and then it was time to start looking at mounting it on the truck itself. And so we're prepping how we're going to mount this thing, and we decided on mounting it on really thick pieces of oak wood, very, very similar to the way that like a straight truck box would be mounted on its frame, because this is super light and we just wanted to keep it simple. And so we're using long U-bolts with big blocks of heavy oak, and drilled it through, and it doesn't go anywhere at all. It's certainly stable and simple, no corrosion issues, stuff like that. And we actually had the use of a telehandler that weekend to be able to help us lift that thing right on there and set it on. And with that shorter wheelbase at that time, 220-inch wheelbase, it wasn't bad at all. Just here recently, about a month ago, we stretched that wheelbase out, but you can see, you know, once it's up on the truck, I can do a little bit more of the wiring. I can finish, you know, doing the plumbing for the heater. The heater hoses are just connected up to my engine. We have some quick releases on there so that, again, if we ever take the sleeper off the truck, we can just pop the back window back in it and make it a day cab again. It's all quick connections. It's 2 battery connections, and boom, it's a self-contained unit. And so that was my whole intention, is being able to have one guy could take this sleeper off by himself in about half an hour and use it on something different if we ever wanted to. So I've had a couple of people ask me before, hey, you can ever make that thing into a big hole? You know, you're going to open it up and make it into part of the truck itself? It's like, no way, not at all. I actually do sleep in this thing. I don't mind the crawl through one bit. I think it's super cool. And I don't want to take away from the historical look of having a crawl through. Plus, I want the truck to be able to go back to a day cab if we ever decide to go that route. So, yeah, I thought it looked pretty cool lit up at night that way, and I drove it with the 220 wheelbase and having the sleeper on it that way for, about 2 years, I suppose, that way. Anytime that I sleep inside the truck, I started kind of my own little tradition, going back to the World War II bomber thing, of just painting a bomb on the inside door panel anytime I sleep in the truck. And it's been many, many nights. I sleep in this thing maybe one night a week through the winter. So when we did the wheelbase stretch on this thing, we did pull the sleeper back off again, and everything worked great. Being stainless like that, it's really not that bad to keep clean, and it's definitely eye-catching. It's different than what else is out there. I absolutely love this project. It was a lot of fun to do, and I would certainly do it all over again. I would love to build more Bentz sleepers. I think they're really, really awesome. So, yeah, there you can kind of start seeing the transition of the truck from beginning to end when I first started with Brian and when we first got this sleeper out of the junkyard. And, yeah, it was something that, as a Christmas present, it was super cool. So anyway, thanks for coming along, everybody. Appreciate you supporting the channel. Peace and grease.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Flannel. Let's try that again.